All right, everyone. Today, John and we just are dying to talk about this topic because we cannot believe some of the things that we hear. And every time we hear something that we've never heard before, we're like, we've heard it all. And then we hear something else. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So okay, the latest thing was that Sephora had the best year they've ever had. They had a $10 billion year in 2023. That's great for Sephora. I swear that a big chunk of that came from my family because we spend so much money over there at Sephora. I'm just kidding. We're not that wealthy. But anyway, we definitely were part of the contributors to that. Amazing experience with the employees. Every time you walk in, they're incredible. I was so happy to see that team came together and created that kind of an outcome for a company, $10 billion. And what did they get? What did all those amazing employees get for that effort? They got a cookie. A cookie. I'm sorry, that is not great employee recognition. So, John, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I mean, not only did they get a cookie, but I saw a picture of just like a kind of Tupperware tub full of these pre-wrapped cookies that looked dry, by the way. And so like not even like presented in some sort of way to them, but just sort of like probably dumped in a break room in a plastic container for them to grab at during their break or something. So, I mean, just to add insult to injury, right? But I mean, there's so many other ways that you can recognize employees that are so much more meaningful.
Absolutely. I feel like probably what happened is I'm sure it was well intended. I mean, I'm sure nobody was like, oh, yeah, let's send them a cookie. Let them eat cake, right? I'm sure it wasn't like that, but it was probably a decision made from a sort of quote unquote ivory tower, at the executive level. And probably because we're in these circles often, there was, someone who said, well, we don't want to overdo the employee recognition because people are going to feel entitled. They're going to expect it or something like that, right? I can just hear the conversation.
Sure. Or sometimes I'll hear this thing, and this is very true as well. It's like, well, don't spend a bunch of money giving me some gift that I may or may not like. Right? Like some fancy water bottle or something like that, or who knows, right? So they may have been thinking, okay, well, we don't want to do something that just blows our budget. Although it does make me wonder, like you said, this takes logistics. There were rooms of people that were trying to figure out how to make this work. And it just amazes me that nobody at some point said, does this feel weird? Do I feel like Marie Antoinette all of a sudden let them eat cake and giving them cookies? I mean, nobody raised their hand and said, maybe there's a better way of doing this. It's shocking to me.
I know, I agree. And so I think it'd be good just to share some ideas with our listeners around what are other things to consider? And yes, there could be the small percentage of people that don't react the way you want them to a bonus or to a reward. Okay. But does that mean you throw the baby out with the bathwater? Sorry for yet another analogy. But, I mean, there's so many ways to consider how to create recognition programs that truly drive the right behavior, drive the bottom line, drive the revenue that you're expecting, and also result in employees feeling like, wow, I did a lot of great work. And look, I got something for it that I'm actually going to benefit from.
Right, absolutely. Well, and to your point, you're not going to always make everybody happy. That's I mean, that's a life lesson that we all need to learn, right? But I think probably the best way of making people happy about recognition is actually asking them, how do you like to be recognized? Shouldn't that be a baseline, a conversation that you have with an employee or with your team so that you're doing something that's meaningful to them? So it doesn't mean that you can customize everything, but at least knowing if they like to be recognized publicly, privately, you don't like to embarrass people in public, but some people really like it. I think you and
I do. Guilty. Yeah, and I think too, like in the case of Sephora and other businesses that are trying to get you're putting the right goals in front of people, I think tying that to a financial goal is actually a great idea. And I think when it's really clear, it can benefit all, right? Like, so I would imagine Sephora probably had store goals where they had sale goals, and they probably had some little internal competitions around that. Why not tie that back to, if you bring in a $10,000 day at the store, everyone gets $100 bonus or something along those lines. I don't know if those numbers are proper or not, but like,
Right.
but that would make a lot of sense that everybody's going to be pushing toward a financial goal and resulting in having a financial reward.
Yeah. And, financial rewards are motivating. They're extremely motivating to some people. Some studies have shown that they don't have the longevity, which is why I think your approach and having it tied to goals and this is happening with some frequency makes it more powerful. If it's like an annual bonus, those have shown to not be quite as motivating over long periods of time. Like you get a little bump, but then that dies down. And another thought I had was, in this case of Sephora, I'm sure there's a lot of differences at the local level. So, like, why not give a little budget to that store manager who knows their staff better than anybody else, who could then do something meaningful for that team? And it could be a team building opportunity, and they're being recognized for their great work. I mean, I think that would have been so much more of a win-win situation, and also strengthens the relationship between management and employees. I mean, I would take that cookie money and like turn it over to the local level.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's become one of the big lessons that, we've learned at Turning the Corner too, is just remembering to stay really flexible. Like just because you have it in one way in Austin, Texas, doesn't mean you're going to do the exact same thing in New York City, right? Like
Yeah.
every store is going to be different. Every expectation for that local area is going to be different. I know for the store that we go to quite often, which I want to talk about actually, I feel like the gal, mostly it's all women that are in that are part of the Sephora team. They are all they're so friendly. They're like models for how you can use the makeup. They are like, they do stuff that like my daughter and I are like, wow, how did she do that? Or how did they do that? And it's like such an incentive then to also use the product. And so I can imagine like the store here, they would want to give even like product bonuses. Like, everybody gets credit here at Sephora or something. I don't know. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
But I want to say this. I love the store that's local to us. I do. But what reading this announcement made me not want to be a consumer anymore of Sephora.
Mm.
And I think that's the other element of this, is that what are you communicating and what's the impact you're having on the broader world when you do these types of recognition programs? Because you got to think about how the consumers, your customers, are going to respond when this stuff goes viral too. And I mean, I think with a couple quick conversations, they could have figured out that this is going to fall pretty flat.
Right. Absolutely. Particularly for your clients who don't, even if there were more context around the other perks and benefits that Sephora employees receive, your clients, your customers, they're not really privy to that. So all they see is that the company had an amazing year and their employees got cookies. And there's already so much distrust about large corporate structures, a feeling of this great divide between the super uber wealthy and those who are doing all of the work. So this is the kind of thing that just exacerbates that existing discomfort and feeling. And so you're right. Not only is it going to make your employees go like, why am I working here? For what? For whom? So you're going to have that impact on them and perhaps create costly turnover, right? So could have spent a little bit more money than cookies and kept some good employees, but then also you're going to hurt your bottom line with your consumers.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so I think what we want to leave our listeners with is that there's a lot of different ways to do employee recognition, and get creative with it, stay flexible with it, but don't mess it up. Don't mess it up, because like what's happened with Sephora messed it up big time. They lost employees, they've lost customers, and mostly I think they've lost some mind share, and that's not good in a highly competitive market. So reach out to us if you want some more ideas on what you might do for employee recognition and what are some of the do's and don'ts around it. Because like we started off with, John and I think we're close, at least, to hearing it all.